Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Emily Horler and I'm here with Richard Deere of Icon Solutions, and we're talking about instant payments. Richard, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.
What issues does the move to instant payments create for payment service providers' internal infrastructures?
Well, we think the move to instant payments is really important to get right. It's going to underpin the API economy and essentially transform banks. And there's a few challenges, I think, for banks in doing that. One is, how do they get to market fast? The second one is, how do they easily enable new products and services to be configured on top of the instant payments products, as instant payments becomes the norm for payments. And the third one is, how do they meet the challenges of operating in a 24/7 real-time world? So the impact that has on the banks depends on the approach they take. And generally, when we're speaking to banks, they're looking at one of three different approaches. So the first one is to upgrade their existing systems, and that has quite a high impact on their internal infrastructures. And that often runs into problems in terms of poor documentation. They don't have enough resources and expertise. The systems are very old. The second option banks look at is how to implement a general purpose payments hub. And often they also run into problems with that in terms of the projects aren't generally very successful, the business case requirements aren't always met. So again, that's something which has a high impact on banks' internal infrastructures, but with often a poor rate of return. The third option they have is to specifically put something in place which is designed for instant payments. So as much as possible, you leave the existing infrastructure as is and reduce the impacts on it, and putting in something which is quite low impact, fast time to market, and specifically designed for instant payments. Now, Icon Solution looked at these different options last year, and for EBA Day, we published a paper which looked at those options and the cost impacts of that.
So how can PSPs adopt instant payments in a way that's efficient, but also ensures compliance with regulations such as PSD2?
Well, it depends on the options that we've just talked through, but I think its first thing is how to integrate with the back-end systems that you need to talk to. So compliance, fraud, and the accounting system. And ideally what you want to do to minimise the impacts is to make the new system which you're implementing conform to the standards of the old system. So you minimise the amount of change that you have on the old systems. The second thing you need to be able to do is to configure the workflow and the orchestration of the payments in a way that meets each individual bank's requirements. And there are techniques such as business-driven development which banks can adopt these days, which enable business and IT and operations to all sit down together and effectively cut down on some of the silos. So the third point is that many banks, the existing infrastructures can't support a 24/7 real-time world. So what you need to do is protect those back-end systems using a combination of techniques such as stand-in processing, which comes from the world of cards. And finally, of course, what you need to do is ensure an end-to-end open banking real-time payments architecture is in place in order for you to be able to support PSD2.
So what effect will PSD2 and regulation have on cards?
Well, I think there's two answers to that, or two ways of looking at it. So first thing is, what are the impacts in terms of the bank's internal infrastructure of opening up instant payments to the worlds of PSD2 and open APIs? And I think there's three things that they need to consider there. One is, how do you then compete with the likes of the fintechs and the Googles and the Amazons and the Facebooks, etc., which may take advantage of this new world? And we think that one of the things to do there is to employ the same kinds of technology that they have, so to take advantage of open source software, to take advantage of API native technologies. The second thing they need to do again is to quickly enable change. So how do they enable new products and services to be configured? How do they keep pace with the demands of the market from PSD2? Finally, they need to enable fast go-to-market. And one of the things which we think is really important is to have within the solution that you deploy the expertise and the experiences from other markets and from other banks codified within that product solution. And certainly that's the approach that Icon Solutions is taking with its instant payments framework. The second part of the question is, what are the impacts in terms of the volumes of card payments that PSD2 and instant payments will have? We think that's a really interesting topic. So actually we've commissioned research from Ovum, which looks at the impact that will have on card volumes, on general e-commerce transaction volumes over the next 3, 5 and 10 years. And that research is something which we're going to be publishing at EBA Day. So that's something which we're looking forward to talking to everyone about there.
Richard, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching.